Hey everyone, it's Nancy. For those of you that are following Tim's 12 Tags of Christmas, on day 2 today he showed where he made his own custom stamp pad to stamp his image in multicolors. When I was at CHA he demoed that for us, but I had also done it last year. This is my stamp pad from last year, and I stamped it this morning. Now this hasn't been touched for a year. I stamped it this morning and it still has some color on it. I did another one this morning because this is my second take of this video. This is the one I did this morning. There's the stamped image and the tag that I created. Okay, just to show you how to do this really fast. You're going to use Ranger's Cut and Dry Stamp Pad Felt. The felt, not the foam. You have to make sure you have the felt one. So I'm going to stamp this Merry Christmas. It's from Retro Holiday, CMS 067. Okay, I want this stamp to be right here on my felt so I can cut it off across there. This is where it gets a little weird because I don't have a block that size. So I'm going to line my block up at that line so I have my stamp where it needs to be on here, and then where I'll need to draw my line at after I stamp it so that I can cut that piece out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my Ranger Archival ink in jet black. You have to make sure that you use a waterproof ink for this. I'm going to ink my stamp up. And I'm going to line it up across that line where I want to cut it. And stamp my stamp down. And press it down really good to make sure that the whole stamp stamps. I'm going to pull it off. My stamped image is on the felt. Now he says not to pull your stamp or your block off until you mark it so you know where to cut. But what I'm going to do is just flip my stamp over so I can leave my stamp where it was and line that up. And then I'm just going to draw my line across there. Now you're going to need a good pair of scissors to cut this because this is pretty thick. So I'm going to use my Tim Holtz Tonic scissors, of course, and cut this out. It's pretty tough to cut. It's not real easy because it's so thick. But I'm just going to cut that off. And now I have the base for making my own ink pad. I'm going to do this with Barn Door, Fired Brick, Peel Paint, and Forest Moss. So I'm going to start with the Barn Door. And I'm just going to go on the top. You want to go on the black on your stamped part. So with this lighter red, I'm just going to do the very tops of my letters, and then I'll do the darker red in the bottom. And this does not have to be perfect because your stamp's only going to pick up on the stamp part. Then I'll do the Fired Brick at the bottom. Again, just following those lines. Now the ink will wick, but where the two colors meet, they won't pass each other. So you don't have to worry about them, you know, going past each other's color lines. I'm going to follow this Y a little bit. Just make sure that you get it good and inked up where the black stamp is, the stamped image part. Then we're going to go in with peeled paint on the top part of Christmas. Put on my letters. And I use the forest moss on the bottom. No exact science to this, just cover the black part of your stamped image. Okay. Looks like I got the whole thing covered, but I'm going to stamp it just to make sure first. On just a piece of scratch paper to make sure that it's right. So I'm just going to line the top of my block up. With that cut line, stamp my image down, and I can see that I have ink on my stamp just where it needs to be. And I'm going to stamp it. And you can see where it actually needs more ink. So I'm going to use this as kind of my guide and go in and fill in some more of that color. Again, these colors won't cross each other, so you don't have to be worried about putting your ink on there, okay? I'll go back in with more fired brick just to make sure that it's good and inked. Do the same with the green. At this point I can barely see the stamped image, so I know it's getting pretty well covered. Do the same with the bottom. Just add some of that color down in here. Okay. Let's try to stamp it again. So again, I'm just going to line my stamp up. And then stamp it. Better. I think that'll work because this is a distressed looking stamp anyway. Okay. So I'm going to grab my tag. Which I can't believe I didn't grab before. Take my string off. Okay, since I'm going to emboss this, I'm going to go ahead and just rub my embossing buddy over it to get any static off. Decide where I want to stamp it. Right there. Again, line that up. Ink your stamp. Make sure it's got ink on it. Then stamp it down where you want it. You can see the stamped image. I'm just going to put some embossing powder on this real quick. So we can give it that high shine. And I use the Ranger Superfine Clear embossing powder. Use my craft tool. And melt this powder. Takes just a minute to get started. perfect. If you can see, embossed image. Now I'm going to go in this tag and add some color. So I'm going to use some antique linen. Just wipe this off. Just a little bit, just to put some color on the tag. I had someone ask me why I use this little mat when I have the big pink mat. It's because the big pink mat is nice, but it's not as non-stick as this, and it's not as easy to clean as this. And plus this helps keep me in frame. So okay, that's inked. And I'm going to use the music note stamp from Festive Sounds, CMS 048. I don't know if it'll fit on this. And I'm going to use tea dye. Make my stamp. Just going to stamp over the whole thing. And then I'm going to use the big flourish stamp. This is Fabulous Flourish, the CMS 070. This is the stamp that he uses on almost every tag. And this thing needs a huge stamp block. I mean, that thing's almost as big as my craft sheet. So with this one, I'm going to use some Vintage Photo. No, we'll do Walnut Stain. It's going to ink my whole stamp up because I'm going to use different parts of it in different places. And then I'm just going to stamp. And we'll go up here and just stamp. I'm going to wipe off over my embossed part because that resists the ink. Okay. Then I'm going to take Vintage Photo and just ink around these edges a little bit. And there's my tag. And I'll embellish this and, you know, add flowers and all that, but I just wanted to show you all that don't be intimidated by that technique. It is really easy, really easy. Try it. I promise you'll be able to do it. If you do, I'd love to see what you make, and I hope you all enjoy the 12 tags. And I'll see you Sunday with YPP's Ustream from 1:30 to 7 on Sunday. Thanks.